Marcus Rush felt the weight of the morning as he walked down the narrow hallway of his luxurious Manhattan apartment. The incessant ringing of his cell phone echoed off the walls, urgent business calls demanding his attention. He glanced quickly at his watch. He was already late. "Jake, hurry up. We're going to be late for school," he shouted, impatience thick in his voice. He knew he had a crucial meeting, but he couldn't ignore the responsibility of getting his son there. In the kitchen, Jake, his 8-year-old son, struggled with his shoelaces. "Dad, I can't do this," he exclaimed, frustration written all over his face. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. Even with the urgency of his business, he knew he couldn't ignore his son's small daily challenges. "Calm down, I'll help you." He tossed his phone onto the counter, where notifications continued to flash. He knelt down beside Jake and quickly tied his shoelaces. "Thanks, Dad. You're the best." Jake smiled, his irritation quickly melting away. Despite being late, Marcus couldn't help but smile back. Jake had a knack for bringing lightness into his life, even in the midst of chaos. "Come on, son. We can't be late any longer." As they walked out the door, Marcus barely noticed Elena, the building's janitor, cleaning the lobby. To him, she was almost an invisible figure, always present but never really noticed. Today, however, his mind was entirely consumed with the important presentation that could decide the fate of his company. For Elena, however, this was just another exhausting day in a long series of difficult days. Every movement with the mop was a reminder of her arduous life and the responsibilities that weighed on her. His mother was at home, sick and in need of care. Elena did her best to keep the bills paid and ensure her mother's well-being, but reality didn't leave her much room to dream. Suddenly, a scream broke the morning silence. Elena looked up and saw Jake chasing a red ball that was rolling down the street. Her heart raced as she realized the imminent danger. Without hesitation, she dropped the mop and ran. "Jake, stop!" she yelled as she watched the car speed toward her. The sound of tires skidding echoed through the air. On reflex, Elena lunged forward, grabbing Jake's coat and pulling him to the sidewalk, out of reach of the car. They both fell to the ground, gasping for breath but safe. "Are you okay?" Elena asked, still trying to catch her breath. Jake looked at her with wide eyes, fear giving way to relief. "Yes. Thank you," he replied, with an expression of gratitude that reflected his innocence. Marcus, who was standing a few feet away, froze when he saw the scene. His heart almost stopped. He ran to his son, concern written all over his face. "Elena, I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been here. You saved my son." "I have no words to thank you," he said, his voice still shaking with emotion. Elena smiled, trying to make light of the situation. "I just did what anyone would do," she said modestly. But Marcus knew there was more to it than that. She had reacted quickly and courageously. "No, you saved Jake, and I really want to show my gratitude. Can I buy you something? Maybe a dress, as a present?" Elena was surprised by the offer. She wasn't used to this kind of attention, and the thought of accepting something felt strange. "Oh, I can't accept that, sir. Really, it was just a reflex. Please, Elena, I insist. It's just a way to thank you for saving the most important person in my life. Let me do this for you." After a pause, Elena nodded, still a little embarrassed, but touched by Marcus' sincerity. Days later, Marcus met Elena again in the building's lobby. This time, with a proposal that took her by surprise. "I would like you to accompany me to my company's corporate ball next week. It will be an important event, and I would be honored to have you there." Elena hesitated, uncertain about the invitation. A gala? She didn't belong in that world. Working as a janitor kept her from any kind of luxury. She wondered if someone like her would fit in at such an elegant event. "I don't know, sir. I don't think I'm the kind of person who should go to an event like that, she said with a nervous laugh. Of course it is, Marcus replied with an encouraging smile. You saved my son. To me, you're one of the most important people in my life right now. Think of this as a chance to have some fun. And that dress, it's going to look amazing on you. Still reluctant, Elena considered the offer. Marcus's gesture was sincere, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to imagine what it would be like to live a moment like that. A shy smile appeared on her lips. Okay, I'll go, he said, his voice shaking with anticipation. As the date of the prom approached, Marcus and Elena began to get to know each other better. During a casual conversation in the building, Marcus asked curiously, Elena, tell me something. What did you want to do before you started working here? What were your dreams? She hesitated for a moment, surprised by the question. It had been so long since she had talked about her dreams that she had almost forgotten what it was like to think about them. I always wanted to design clothes. My dream was to be a fashion designer, to study fashion and work creating pieces. I even started taking some courses, but things changed. My mother got sick, and I had to put everything aside to take care of her. Since then, working as a janitor has been my reality, she explained, her voice thick with nostalgia and a touch of sadness. Marcus listened intently, feeling a deep respect for the sacrifices she had made. He admired the strength and determination Elena displayed every day, despite the hardships. That's incredible. You still have time to pursue that dream. It's never too late to start over, Elena. Your talent shouldn't be wasted. She smiled, touched by Marcus's empathy and encouragement. It was rare for someone to see beyond her daily routine, someone who believed in her. Maybe someday. Who knows, she said, a new sparkle in her eyes. Finally, the night of the ball arrived. Elena stared at herself in the mirror, almost in disbelief. The dress Marcus had given her was a deep blue, elegant, molded perfectly to her body. Her hair, which was usually tied up in a practical way, now fell in soft waves over her shoulders. She took a deep breath, nervous but at the same time excited. For a moment, she felt that maybe she really belonged in this world. Upon entering the luxurious ballroom, Elena was immediately enveloped by the stunning atmosphere. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a soft light that enhanced the elegance of the guests. Classical music played in the background, and laughter echoed off the ornate walls. Marcus spotted her across the room and walked toward her, an admiring smile on his face. Elena, you look amazing, he said, his voice thick with sincerity. I knew the dress would be perfect, but you've exceeded all expectations. She blushed, still trying to get used to the compliments and the new sense of belonging. Thank you, Marcus. I confess I almost didn't come, but now I'm glad I accepted the invitation. As the evening wore on, Marcus made a point of introducing her to some of his colleagues and business partners. This is Elena, the woman I told you about, he said, with pride evident in his voice. Initially shy, she began to feel more at ease, especially when the subject turned to business and strategy. Even though she wasn't part of that world, Elena had a unique vision, and her ideas quickly caught people's attention. I think innovation is not just about technology or new materials, she began, her voice growing louder as she spoke. It's about understanding people's needs. If companies really focus on creating something with empathy, they can achieve more meaningful results, something that goes beyond just profit. The group was silent for a moment, pondering her words. Marcus smiled, clearly impressed. But not everyone was so receptive to Elena's presence. Richard, an old rival of Marcus's, approached with a mocking smile. So this is the famous janitor you keep talking about, he said, sarcasm dripping from his voice. Interesting. What does someone like her know about real business? Before Elena could respond, Marcus intervened firmly. "Richard, this is unnecessary. Elena brought brilliant ideas that have a lot to add, more than many here. She has a unique perspective that only adds value to our team." Elena's gaze went from nervousness to gratitude. Seeing Marcus defend her so openly touched her, and she knew in that moment that she was surrounded by people who believed in her potential. A few days after the ball, Marcus approached her with an unexpected proposal. "Elena, I've been thinking about our latest project and I wanted you to be a more active part of it. I think your ideas could really help us innovate." Surprised, she hesitated. "Me? But I'm just the caretaker. I don't know if I can really help." "You have a lot to offer, Elena. Your perspective is different from ours, and that is an advantage. Your ideas are good, and we need someone who thinks outside the box. Please consider it." Still uncertain, Elena promised to think about it. However, while Marcus encouraged her to get more involved, Richard began to plot against her. He felt threatened by Elena's growth and began spreading rumors, trying to discredit her. Despite this, Elena remained steadfast. In meetings, her ideas began to gain traction. She suggested including sustainable materials in new products, something that could set the company apart from the competition. "This is exactly what we need," Marcus said during one of the meetings, visibly excited about the idea. As the weeks passed, Elena began to feel more confident in her contributions, but Richard continued to undermine her behind her back. During an important presentation, he made a last-ditch effort to discredit her by hurling accusations that she was unqualified to be there. However, Marcus was prepared. He quickly exposed Richard's true plans, revealing his attempts at sabotage to the entire team. The investors, impressed by Elena's integrity and creativity, decided to offer her a permanent position at the company. Thrilled and surprised, Elena accepted. As she and Marcus walked out of the building together, he smiled. "You did it. I knew you could do it." "Thank you for believing in me," Elena said, her eyes teary but full of hope for the future.